to issues of communications, telecoms, digital economy, and what is happening in sector. A sector that's perhaps a key driver of Nigeria's growth, contributing over 16% to the GDP as of last quarter. Broadband penetration has risen to 47%, with a national target of about 70% by 2025. Questions remain about how we will bridge that gap, especially in rural areas in Nigeria. Nigerians are also concerned about the rising cost of data and call tariffs amidst inflation and economic challenges. The recently established Digital Trade Desk aims to position our digital economy globally. But what does it mean for local technology companies? And then there is the Nigeria Startup House in San Francisco, a bold initiative to showcase our innovation on a global stage. What is next? Joining us tonight is the Minister of Communications to unpack these pressing issues. The Minister, Mr. Bosun Tijani, is live for us. It's good to have you, and a happy new year to you, Minister.
Same to you, Sean.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure to be here.
So, evidently, and we no running away from it, we will have a reviewed and upward review, that is to say, of Telecoms tariff. That is for a fact, isn't it?
It is a fact.
What margin should we be looking at? What percentage?
I think, Sean, what we brought into this conversation is the use of evidence and fact to engage. And every time I've had the opportunity to discuss this with you, I think we ensure that we use data for this engagement. And there's a clear reason for it. This is a sector that is absolutely important to our people. I think if you speak to stakeholders in this sector, they will tell you that they are very aware that some people actually buy airtime, credit, before they buy food. It's an extremely important one. But when you pay attention to the trajectory of the sector, telecommunications in particular, we did full liberalization of this sector in 1999. And if you look at the growth of the Nigerian GDP, you will see that immediately after that full liberalization, some of us that are old enough remember the days when we only had landlines at home. When this, absolutely, but when this technology was allowed to truly serve our people, the GDP of Nigeria started growing almost 30% year on year. You know, I asked people to go and look at this number. Many people didn't pay attention to it. When I was appointed, the first thing we did was to look at the GDP of a country, because the role of every minister is to contribute to the agenda of the government in terms of driving better lives for the people. So we actually articulated it, we planned it out, and we saw that growth. We looked at that time and said, were there any other things that changed in the society that could have led to the growth that we're seeing? And we couldn't find anything. And the way we can also attest to the change is in the level of productivity. The interview you just finished was done over broadband. Before that full liberalization, that wouldn't have been possible in Nigeria. If today we ask every Nigerian to drop their phone for 24 hours, just imagine what will happen. Or if today the internet goes off for just 24 hours, banking, health, trade, so many things will go down. This is a critical sector for our country. So when we came in, we saw the agitation of the MNOs, but we decided, you know what, it's our responsibility to ensure that, one, a sector that is contributing, like you said, about around 14 to 16, 18% to our GDP is an important sector. This sector employs, I think, over 15,000 people directly, and there's around 500,000 other people that are benefiting from working around this sector. It is important for us that we keep the sector alive, that we can't allow it to crash. But of course, technology communications is the heart and the engine that drives any economy. But at the same time, for us, it is important that our people can access meaningful connectivity. And by meaningful connectivity, we actually determine what that should look like. And that's a minimum of 25 Mbps if you live in the urban area, and a minimum of 10 Mbps if you live in the rural area. But this is the issue. The technology and the technical details behind that, Sean, is that there are both physical and soft infrastructure that drives what we want to achieve, the quality that people expect. That means we're talking about towers that people have to physically invest in. We're talking about cables, whether it's the submarine cables that actually connect Nigeria to the rest of the world, or it's fiber optic cable, and in some cases, Coopers that are really the old versions of this cable. People have to invest in that. We're talking about data center. We're talking about energy, in some cases, batteries to power this location. There is a number of physical solutions that drives the production of this. And what we've seen is that over time, after NITEL, or whatever name we called it back in the days, we left the investment, the major investment in this infrastructure, to the private sector. And the private sector will only invest to an extent in areas where they can get medium to short-term returns, because that's how private capital works. If you look at every progressive country in the world, right, they've had to invest on the government side to ensure that you can plug the gap where people don't have access. And that's the first work we've done. We've done a lot of work around this. We've spoken about it extensively, where this government has decided that our job on one hand is to encourage these private companies to continue to invest in Nigeria.
Yeah.
But we've also realized that their investment is not going to be enough, which is why government is actually announced the investment in the 90,000 fiber optic network. It's why the government is declared all telecommunications infrastructure as critical national infrastructure so that they don't get damaged easily. It is why we're now doing the assessment of even saying government should look for the development of some sort of SPV to invest in towers in locations where private companies will not invest, so that we can ensure that we can cover our people. And we know there's evidence to saying if you improve the quality of connectivity in any country by 10%, you're bound to see about 2.5% increase in your GDP.
Minister, you've not told me, I asked specifically, what percentage, what margin of review, upward review are we expecting?
There's a study. That's exactly what I answered. That's not for a minister to tell you. This is the typical thing that people will do. In our sector, progressive countries must get independent consultants to look at the numbers. They have to look at the implication of any increase on the population, but also the sustainability of the sector. You have to balance the two. It is not enough.
So it's not arrived at.
Oh, no, the NCC is working on that. We've received the report from KPMG and Simon Cooper.
I was going to ask you specifically on the factors leading to that, but in your explanation, you've given us a background to where we got to the conversation around increase in tariff, and also the operators have been agitating since last year that there need to be an upward review.
For 6 years, actually, not just last year.
Yeah, and it's one sector also that are saying a static review upwardly, and despite the changes in whatever. But however, any increase during this, you've said that the NCC will not approve 100% tariff hike. But the question is, are you prioritizing the profits of telecom companies over the survival of ordinary Nigerians?
I think you've answered your question yourself. You said we've already made it clear that we're not going to approve 100%. These companies are asking for 100%, stating clearly that this is what they believe they need to get. But what we're looking at in terms of the sustainability of the sector, if this is a sector that is responsible for driving growth in our country, it will be harmful on our people to allow the MNOs to increase by 100%. But what we're now doing that people are not paying attention to, and this is why we're saying it's about sustainability. We're asking difficult questions that is saying, can we possibly increase the local content in that sector? Meaning, can we reduce the amount of imports that is coming into that sector, which means they have to look for foreign exchange, which is more expensive. We've declared all their infrastructure as critical national infrastructure. That's something they've been looking for years. President Tinubu did that last year. The reason is that when people go and vandalize telecommunications equipment, it drops the quality of service that our people get, but it also costs this company a lot to repair. We're taking that away. If you look at the tax reform, for instance, there are a number of things there to harmonize taxes that they pay, to reduce it in a way that is good for the country, but also it allows these companies to thrive. We are, as a country, for instance, investing in that 90,000 kilometers that I mentioned. When we do the investment, it will allow these companies to be able to reach more people. If we're investing in towers in difficult-to-reach locations, in rural areas, it will give them the opportunity to increase the pool of customers that they have without making that heavy investment. So if you look at the KPMG report, which I believe the final copy should be circulated shortly, there are a list of things that we recommended. And if you look at what we've been doing as well, I've been working hard on this.
Yeah.
There are a long list.
Do you have a percentage threshold?
For what
you said you will not approve 100%, no, and you have said the NCC should not. Yeah. But do you have a threshold?
I think they shouldn't. It shouldn't be more than anywhere between 30 to 60%. I don't think it should be more.
So there is a worry, and I want us to wrap up because there are other sectors under your ministry purview that we need to attend to tonight. But quickly, I look at it. And I look at what is globally acceptable standards. And I'll stay within the sub-Saharan Africa. Nigeria's telecom tariffs is reportedly to be among the lowest in sub-Saharan Africa. Critics have argued, and those who don't agree with the argument of the operators about the quality of service, they say it does not even justify the minimum cost that they are charging. How is your ministry addressing the balance between affordable tariffs and ensuring high-quality service delivery to Nigerians?
I think that's what I started with. This is a technical conversation. I think anyone that wants to engage that conversation should spend time. We now have ChatGPT. It can help. Try to understand the formation of how the sector delivers services. It's about investment in infrastructure. And as they are investing in the infrastructure, the technologies are changing. Right? Things like 3G, they're going to be decommissioned at some point because you have to move to higher technology. So these folks have to keep investing in equipment. And we all know that there's been inflation, right? So for us, as we're protecting them, we recognize that we want them to keep importing capital. And if you look at what we've achieved as a sector, if you compare Q1 2024, the FDI flow to our sector, which is largely driven by some of these telecoms companies, was close to $199 million. And that was bigger than the entire inflow for 2023 as a whole. What we want them to do is to be able to invest, continue to invest. But we've also seen that where Nigeria wants to be, Mr. President is putting all the efforts in to ensure that we can take our economy to a $1 trillion economy. We cannot get there if MNOs are investing at a snail pace, which is why the government also recognizes the fact that government must invest, de-risk and continue to invest where the MNOs will not invest.
That's your explanation indicts you as a regulator, Minister, because yes, you want to indulge them to be able to perform better by their investment. Indulging in the sense that those of us who are perhaps caught in the web of poor service delivery from all of these, and in other climes, Minister, as you would know, if there is going to be interruption, poor service delivery, the operators will have informed the public and their customers. The operators in Nigeria take customers for granted, Minister.
I beg to differ on this. As much as I wouldn't like to come on national TV and start defending operators on MNO, that's not my job. My job is to protect society, to ensure that I supervise the regulators to do the right things. A number of the things that leads to disruption in service, they are not things that you can be pre-warned on. As we're seated here, if someone damaged the fiber optic cable that serves this neighborhood, your network will go off nearly immediately.
But what happens?
They have redundancy
What happens, Minister, afterwards? No explanation.
What happens afterwards?
Nobody tells us why.
What happens afterwards in most cases, and I'm not here to take brief for the company. This is not a question I like asking. You asked it the last time as well. What happened afterwards, like every business, is that most of these organizations will get into action trying to identify the exact location and to fix that problem. That's what happens. In fact, let me give you an example. We want a better country, but I think we almost always must find a way to understand our wins are celebrated. Today, I am the global chair for a committee that has been set up by the International Telecommunications Union that is looking at the resilience of submarine cables all over the world. Submarine cables are cables that actually carry internet. The ones we see, that's the second level. The actual cable that carries most of the cables to Nigeria, about 7 of them, they connect us to countries like Portugal. That's where the origination of most of these things. And a lot of countries in Africa connect to it. The last submarine cable cut that happened in West Africa, it took Nigeria less than 24 hours to get back capacity up to about 90%. This was because we had companies that had clear redundancy plan and they were able to come together. Immediately that happened, I went to Geneva at the ITU to table that the world must have a clear protocol on how we manage those cable cuts, because we can't be moving everything online and as leaders not have a clear way of managing when there are cuts. Because cuts affect multiple countries, there are protocols that we have to follow in dealing with other countries to manage those things. And those protocols were not well set out. After that call, I put it online when I was in Geneva. After that call, ITU decided to start a global advisory board. In February, the first inaugural meeting of that board is going to happen in this Abuja.
Congratulations, Minister. We are proud of you.
With leaders from all over the world. What I want to highlight here is that there's so much that is going on. There's a lot of investment that we need to do. The hard work for us is to ensure that we do not allow these things to get out of hand to the point where our people cannot get access to it. We have the data set shown to show that there are over 90% Nigerians that can actually afford broadband-based connectivity. But the investment in broadband-based equipment is still less than 40%. Because it's significant investment.
Minister,
this is why government must invest in it. The private sector must invest in it
Minister,
for our people to benefit.
You may disagree with me, but I will keep saying it. If you appear on this program 100 times, I will say the point, because I've seen it happen in other climes. If there is a disruption or there is some interruption in service delivery, customers pay money for service, even one way or the other, either by way of natural causes or whatever, and which people understand. Nigerians are very understandable and accommodating people.
And I totally agree with you.
I say it to you, Minister, that operators in the telecom sector in Nigeria take Nigerians for granted. Just for a moment, sir, in other climes, people will be given free data. As to say apologies for the disruption in Nigeria.
I don't disagree.
Do they apologize?
I don't disagree.
And because of that, I want to ask you, Minister, tonight, to commit to Nigerians that you will no longer allow operators to take Nigerians for granted. Enough is enough for these guys to take. We are paying for it. It's a liberated sector.
The fact is, I would like more for this sector to be a beacon of hope in terms of how we engage. I challenge everyone as I'm talking to you. As at yesterday, NCC signed an agreement with FCCPC for them to join hands to ensure that customer service in the sector will be totally different moving forward. When we came into office, there's something that I call quality of service that people talk about. This is how you measure the quality that you're getting from the MNOs. We decided to expand it and we changed it to something that is called quality of experience. NCC has been working on that. The EVC there has been working on it. And the idea is understanding that the way our people should experience the services from the MNOs must be different. Right? Like I said to you, I don't want to take brief for them. When I was talking about the process they go through to fix stuff, that's a different thing. But in terms of holding them accountable, in fact, it is part of what we're saying that for us to increase tariff, they must commit to a minimum standard, which I expect people to hold me accountable for, which I'm going to hold them.
I'm going to hold you by the trouser, Minister.
Please, by all means. And I will do same to NCC, and NCC is going to do the
because
same
it's important. I mean, you can't, if I pay for something, drop calls, bad data connection, and nothing.
And you know what we're even working on that we've not spoken about? The cost of powering the towers. We have over 40,000 towers in this country. A significant portion of them are powered by diesel. Now the sector is coming together to use clean energy. A number of these companies have started investing significantly. It's going to reduce their cost and
also for the atmosphere is better.
It's better as
well.
But
my last question, Minister, because I need to go to broadband, I need to go to what you went to San Francisco to do, because that's also very critical. The International Telecommunications Union, the ITU, recommends that telecom costs should not exceed 2% of an individual's monthly income. Of course, you know the minimum wage in Nigeria. And you look at what Nigerians will spend on data and call services. How do you plan to address the disparity? If you look at the percentage in which you said it will not be more than, definitely it might be more than the 2% of what ITU recommends. How do you balance that?
Again, Sean, there's something we have in public that I spoke about for the first time mid last year that we're launching formally, I believe in February, called the Broadband Alliance. What you get in countries all over the world is ensuring that you can balance the cost of service to people based on their economic class. And there are times that you don't necessarily do that through the MNOs. There are times that you have to take on community projects that will support. When we officially launch the Broadband Alliance, which we've piloted with, for instance, this is through the platform through which we've given free connectivity to local government secretariat. We're piloting, when we announced this, in 6 university campuses, not just their classrooms. In campuses, we're piloting using existing government fiber network to provide affordable connectivity to hostels. I've had conversations with ISPs who made it clear that if government was able to de-risk, they're working on the model, and don't hold me accountable for this, but they're working on the model to charge as low as 3,000 naira a month for a university student in their campus, unlimited internet. There are things that we need to do as a nation to truly ensure that our people can have access to meaningful connectivity. And those things will not just be what they consume on their mobile. There's a company that is coming around Abuja next week that we're signing an agreement that is already working on fiber to home. This is a movement that started in Nigeria that this government is enabling. Certain homes will now be able to have fiber internet the way you have all over the world. These are the parts to being able to use quality internet, not just on your phone, but on all the devices that you have. And anywhere you find yourself.
You can, Minister,
yes.
When you travel to Atlanta at the airport, at the entrance of the airport, you almost immediately get connected to the free internet.
I wouldn't do that because I'm a minister, so I have to be careful. Free Wi-Fi.
But it's not always very good because the gateway and you never can trust it. And some of the issues, they will demand data from you. Absolutely. But what I'm driving at is that you get free internet in most parts of the world in public places, and whether or not, if you can, let our airports, all our airports, get some free. If you can talk to these guys, it may not cost them anything.
This is part of what we'll do with the broadband alarm. We have to also say the last minister actually did some pilots around this project, but a lot of them were just not structured in a sustainable manner when it was done. And this is part of what we're doing with our broadband alliance to ensure that we find models for connecting our schools. We want to find models for connecting our hospitals. Mr. Partey has been working on projects that will actually find affordable means of connecting hospitals across this country. There are foundational works that we need to do in Nigeria, unfortunately.
Minister,
but this administration is prioritizing.
Quickly, I have two important issues, the broadband and the San Francisco. I may not be able to go to the digital trade desk tonight. But the broadband, the last time we had a conversation, you told us the latest and the update on the construction and development of the broadband infrastructure. Where are we at? How many kilometers is left now?
We can't. We've not laid. What we said to you is we have to raise 2 billion. And that's the process.
How much
for
do you have now?
World Bank has already committed $500 million to this project, and we have other donors who are committing. We're working hard with the World Bank. They've committed to push us through. If everything aligns, National Assembly, everything comes together, for us to get to the point where we sign and they release their parts by the end of the summer, which is end of Q2 into Q3. My personal ambition is that we should start digging the ground to lay this fiber by Q3, sometimes in September, October. That's what I need
to take how long to complete?
Typically, 90,000 kilometers is significant. In some countries, this will take 5-6 years. What we are doing is actually starting a training program that will focus on increasing the pool of companies with the capacity to do this work. Also, remember that it takes special equipment to also dig. Part of what we're doing is to see whether, as a country, we can collectively import civil work equipment that can help these small businesses to support our development. It's going to be an aggressive project. I want everybody to understand this. We've spoken a lot about it. It's a process. We're working day and night to ensure that we get there, securing the money, getting the companies, and actually creating jobs in the process. And one thing we're also doing is, if we can lay 90,000 kilometers of fiber optic network in Nigeria, Nigeria will become a regional leader. And we can start to support other countries, which means our companies can then serve neighboring countries as well.
So quickly, I have just about 60 seconds or thereabout. One of the things that President said is that he will provide digital economy-based jobs.
Yes.
How many has he provided?
Oh, significant. Unfortunately, I didn't come here harmonizing all of them to be able to tell you, but significant. If you look at the 3MTT program that we've done, which is done in phases, Last year, we started first with 30,000, we did 60,000, 90,000. At least about 30% of those people are in one job or the other. There's a company in Lagos called Awari alone that is engaging over 4,000 people in building large language models. These are young people.
Can you harmonize the figure and put it on your Twitter handle?
Of course, we'll do
Let
that.
Nigerians know.
We'll do that.
How much of jobs have been created in digital economy? And I don't have more time to hold you by the trouser, but your trouser will be by my hand a lot of the times, Minister.
Sure, that's what I want to see, but use fact and data, because we want you to engage us on fact
Absolutely.
and data.
That's what I'll try to do as much. Finally, I know you've gone to San Francisco. We have a Silicon Valley right in the heart of Ikeja, our own Ikeja Computer Village. But I know that also is going to be cited somewhere. But yes, on a serious note, the Nigerian startup house in Silicon Valley, with your plan is to position Nigeria tech startups on the global stage. What exactly is this going to help us do?
I think it's very straightforward. So if you follow the technology ecosystem, you know about the technology startups in Nigeria. When I joined the tech ecosystem in Nigeria about 15 years ago, when I started CCO, Nigeria was not listed amongst the destination for investment in tech startup at all. Today, Nigeria is anywhere between number 1, 2, or 3. And Nigeria gets about $1 billion in startup funds that comes to our companies. A lot of people will know companies like Flutterwave, Paystack, Money Point, and the likes. A lot of them, I think Lemfi just raised 53 million yesterday. A lot of these companies, about over 90% of them, the source of their capital is from probably the 4th largest economy in the world, which is the California area, the San Francisco Bay Area. That's where all the technology investors, the biggest ones in the world, that's where they're based. So 90% of the funding to our technology companies, they come from that area. And a lot of these companies, to be able to raise money, they typically join 1 or 2 programs, accelerator programs. These accelerator programs have a limit to how many Nigerian startups they can take, because they take companies from all over the world. Luckily for us, our forefathers invested in a lovely properties on one of the most expensive streets in San Francisco. Belongs to Nigeria. It's not been used for the last 25 years. This government has decided that that building will become a house for technology startup from Nigeria, government building, 10 of them every quarter. We have the opportunity to be able to call that place their home in San Francisco. And we have Nigerians in diaspora there that have committed to helping them, holding their hand and helping them to access people. When I visited this house for the second time, because I finally got the keys to go see the interior, the neighbor was coming back and he was parking. And I approached him and said, "Hi, my name is Bosun Tijani, the minister of blah, blah, blah. What do you do?" He said, "I'm an investor," and he's with one of the biggest, co-founder of one of the biggest investment company in the Bay Area. This is what the Bay Area is all about. That's where all the monies are like. And we released, in our tech platform, we said our goal is that by 2027, we want inflow, FDI to Nigerian startup, to go from $1 billion to $5 billion a year. That's why we're doing this work.
Good news, and Jerry, a lot of tech startups, those who are thinking, don't think, act right now. These are opportunity, and let's verify and also go after some of these opportunities. But thank you so much, Honorable Minister Bosun Tijani. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight.